The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 is one of the better films I've seen all year, which isn't saying much considering the offerings.
It is nice to meet you.
I've been trying to teach him to blend in.
Overall, it felt slightly weaker than Part 1, but still miles ahead of the first two films. Some scenes had great tension, the sewer scene in particular had very good suspense. It made a good portrayal of a revolution, and it was fun watching all the characters manipulating each other for their own personal gains. Despite the film picking up right where Part 1 left off, Julianne Moore's character had changed quite a lot for some reason. Perhaps it was meant to be some kind of character arc, but it didn't really work. The climax of the film was telegraphed about 5 minutes before, which I felt spoilt it a little bit. It was still good, but it would have been a lot stronger if I hadn't seen it coming. They tried to bring back the feel of the games by setting up traps across the terrain that some of the good guys have to pass through, which is one of the most illogical parts of the film.
President Snow's building a minefield of traps.
It's a trap!
So the good guys have to get from A to B, but the bad guys have hidden traps all over the place. Luckily the good guys have a scanner to detect the traps, but for some bizarre reason they insist on triggering all the traps rather than just going around them, despite the huge risk of not knowing what the trap actually is. They state in the film the traps could be anything from automated gun turrets, monstrous beasts, or even bombs.
It's a bomb.
Not to mention these traps are so needlessly complicated and oddly specific that the bad guys would have been better just to put mines and gun turrets everywhere. It seems like the bad guys are risking victory for some silly Home Alone stuff. The film wraps up quite nicely, but it doesn't really answer some of the smaller questions I had. In Part 1, President Snow allows the good guys to rescue Peter and a bunch of other hostages, and I'm not really sure why. I understand the whole Peter thing of having him go crazy and try and kill the Katniss woman, but why let them take the other hostages? I kept thinking at some point that the other people who got saved would flip out and kill their loved ones, especially since there's a marriage, but that opportunity seems wasted. There's also a death that has no emotional impact. The character just appears out of nowhere and then dies. Despite its weaknesses, I think the film was pretty solid overall. It makes for a good ending, and while slightly behind Part 1, it's still much better than the first two films.
Ah, so filling! That was delicious!